Okay, it should take me live. So that's working. There you go. Good morning. Hey, Essa, how you doing? Well, I hope. Good. Good to hear. Okay, so what is today? So yesterday I ended on a little bit of a challenge with the messaging, and what it made me realize is that I needed to step back a little bit and potentially put in some pieces to help me identify these sorts of problems. Because if I'm experiencing problems this early on with message consistency, then there's a good chance I'm going to experience them later on, right? So I started with Outbox, right? So strengthening the library around Kafka message sending in order to build out this extra library and then utilize it. So we'll start with Outbox, then Inbox, because reading up a little bit, my problem with my messaging on the maybe not inbox, but my problem with messaging on the other side could as well be caused by if I had a single flow in. Now, thinking through it, I have two consumers running, so I think I'm actually colliding on initialized tenant rather than actually having an inbox problem. But maybe that is something we need to kind of look at how we would approach that. I don't believe I have implemented it this way before, the Outbox. So I'm going to share me doing that randomly on stream. But it is necessary, regardless of whether we use it in this instance. It is necessary. So doing a bit of that, adding some logging, trying to figure out effective logging, maybe adding in something like Seek or some other platform that allow me to distribute Serilog to it, so I can at least start to look at that. So that's the goal of today's stream. I did want to try and get some of that stuff done off stream because it can kind of be a little bit maintenancey, but it is. Oh, I have very limited time, so my evenings are very short, and then my day starts again. So I will share what I'm doing on stream in my development time, and we'll see how it goes. So I started implementing this yesterday, a little bit, and I've got a little bit of a way in. So the idea would be that you basically say configure an in-memory outbox or whatever outbox you want. So right now I'm using in-memory because it's the safest way. Although we'll come to that in a second. Dota, thank you very much for the resub. I sincerely appreciate that. 4 months. Nice. Thank you. Yeah, so I experimented with the syntax and broke out the extra library. Didn't have enough coffee, so properly supplied. I'm on a nice cup of tea this morning. Although I have a slight headache from being a little bit dehydrated, so I need to get water after this. Too warm. So, okay, so we have the outbox, and the idea would be that we can, oh no. The idea would be that basically it guards against anybody else already having registered this. So if I've registered my I've created an extension method around the service collection that is guard already registered, which basically just says if the service has that service type registered, then throw the exception, right? So I can say, I can safely use these methods to prevent myself from registering both a regular event publisher and then the Kafka event publisher. And then I've created this Outbox configuration builder, which basically just allows you to use those extra methods. So message Outbox and event publisher. And then it registers Kafka publisher as its own thing, because internally, if you think about it, the Outbox publisher itself is going to be the replacement for iEvent publisher. But then Kafka publisher is also an iEvent publisher, but I need to inject it in this one. So this is kind of adapting. Might not be the cleanest design, but right now it's the one that most logically comes to me. So I will rethink this if it's too messy. And then what I'm doing is I'm trying to put some resilience in this, where basically it will back off the message and go and retry. So if Kafka's not there, it will throw an exception, right? And then it will delay the message, retry for another second, and then it will keep adding to that. And I'll put a max retry length in. So it would go, 1, 2 seconds, 3, yeah. So exponential, that's the one I'm talking about. Yeah. An attempt at that. I couldn't think of the word. So I get to the actual Outbox itself, and initially it fits as a queue, right? But because I'm using it in memory, right? The challenge here is if I was using it in SQL, right? So let me go back to actually here. So what Outbox service. So what we need to do is here, once we've published it, we need to do await outbox.commit, right? So we say, yep, I've sent that message now. I think we've done that and wrap tests around it. It's easy to think of in your head than implement. My experience. Yeah. So here's a challenge. Actually, I need to make sure that YouTube is on live chat, not top chat, because YouTube has a habit of hiding messages. I wonder how much code I should push. Don't want to know my code just before Christmas any more than necessary. Well, if reviews are necessary and you've got a deadline, then push the code. If you push in 300 file commits just before Christmas, then you're not going to be very popular. Oof. Yeah, if you've got to do it, but... No, so in the sample, right, we add the Outbox, we use the in-memory Outbox from default publisher. And then every service that gets an iEvent publisher right now would still get an iEvent publisher. It would just publish will actually go to the Outbox, right? So it would do this. It would get the Outbox and then enqueue it. So we could just create an Outbox publisher, right? So we adapt the interface we already have so that it's literally just a swap out of that interface. The actual application stack doesn't care. It has an iEvent publisher. It doesn't need to know that it's going to an Outbox at all. I would ask the people involved, if you can hold it off and they want to hold it off, then hold it off. If they want to get it done before Christmas and just get it done, then fine. But give them the choice, if you can. So yeah, we publish to the Outbox essentially, right? I'm just swapping out an interface for Outbox publisher, right? So when you add the Outbox, right, that gives you the configuration for the builder, and then the Outbox configuration builder, you tell it which implementation of the actual Outbox you're using, and it will stop you from doing this if you've already registered the default event publisher. And then you can just say with default publisher, which is the regular one anyway. So what this does is it wires up that and then uses this anyway. So my intention here is to make this extensible so that we can say, okay, well, now we'll do a SQL Server implementation. Now we'll do a Redis version, etc. And those are just extensions of this library, and they just swap out these extension methods. You just say use Redis publisher or use Redis Outbox. My big feature shipped, so I'm happy regardless. It took so long I don't even remember when I started it. I've never seen DB swapping out the API. The APIs do seem useful though. So in this instance, so that's a good point, right? You don't often swap databases out. So, we put a lot of effort into things like repositories, etc. But even the repository stuff I've got in the main application, that is, raise that a little bit, that is very much dependent upon Entity Framework and SQL Server, right? Things like this, though, are definitely useful, especially for testing. And that's why interfaces really are. You should be using interfaces. You should never be really using the solid implementations things, right? So in this instance, right, my Outbox publisher injects an iMessage Outbox. All this is testable, essentially. I mean, obviously, I'm not doing much there, but I'm trying to work on that. Yeah. So that's the benefit of making the interfaces. It's not so much. I don't think in reality very many companies actually say, yeah, well, let's switch our entire database technology. Normally we save the messages to the outbox and send them to the message bus with the background service. Here you are making an abstraction about where to save it. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing the same thing, right? The background service, this outbox service, is the one that's running in the background and checking the outbox to see if it's got any messages, right? But the application stack doesn't need to change, is my point, right? All the application stack does is you just tell it I'm using Outbox instead of I'm actually using the default publisher. So the regular producer sample looks like this, right? Where we say services.addKafka builder.addDefault publisher, right? That's a non-Outbox publisher, right? The Outbox sample is add Kafka, then add an Outbox, use the in-memory Outbox with the default publisher, which is the same there, right? So we're just using what we normally would use, we're just wrapping it around with an Outbox, right? So that's kind of what I'm trying to present here. So I am doing it's saving to the Outbox first, and then the message bus is running in the background. I am doing that. I'm just tying it up in a set of interfaces. Where is me, but view/e. What's the mechanism? Is it a queue or a table? Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I'm doing. That is exactly what I'm doing, right? I just have an implementation right now called the in-memory message outbox, which is actually the iMessage outbox we insert into, right? And I'm going to go through some of the challenges with this because one of the things I want to do is say I've successfully sent a message, right? So I don't want to DQ it. If this is actually DQ, right, then that actually DQs it. And if it fails, I either have to do outbox.enqueue, right, with the message, which I don't have scope of, so I've got to make sure this is in a different place. Right, that's what I'm kind of going through. This is why I'm streaming this part, and rather than actually trying to go off and figure out all the challenges, I wanted to share that I am stuck on it a little bit, and I am going to do this, and it's kind of useful anyway. Yeah, so I am actually doing exactly that. Right, so we get to talk about the pattern here is kind of the benefit, right? We get to talk about, so it's nice and neat in terms of the publishing. So the idea is, again, for the application stack, let me open the real code. Checking I don't have a destructive doggy. Idempotency key can be added to the messages. Yeah, that's kind of why we might end on that respect. In that respect, well, you need something to identify this is the same message, right? You need something to make sure that you are not trying to process the same message, etc. There's a few mechanisms we can try and use here. But what I'm trying to do is create a very simple in-memory version of the Outbox first, rather than trying to go to the SQL Server. Because SQL Server is a little easier, right? Because I can insert into the database and I have an ID. When I query the record out of the database, right, I can say, oh, I've got this ID, commit this one, and it will just remove that record, right? So I have that idempotency, right? I have that idempotency because I know exactly which message I'm dealing with, right? There's more than one way to do very many things, right? So if I'm using SQL Server, I have an identifier of the record. In this instance, I don't have which message, and actually a queue, although it's the right structure, maybe I need to wrap this in something else because of the challenge of, hey, I'm committing this message back, right? I'm saying this message is done. But with a queue, you get the next, you can peek, right? Which will give you the next one without actually dequeuing it. But then it will, but then you need to remove it. But if someone else comes in and inserts a message beforehand, you can't just dequeue the next message. Right? So yes, I am creating an outbox. The outbox fits the pattern of the event publisher, so that as far as the application is concerned, other than the configuration, all the code looks the same. So you can swap them in and out, right? And now I get to this, right? So right now this is implemented literally as in queue and dequeue, right? Maybe this isn't the best, right? Maybe this is post and fetch or something like that, right? Because the moment I say queue and in queue and dequeue, I'm automatically thinking queue, and a concurrent queue works, right? It's thread safe, it will work fine. Ignore task.runs, etc. I'm just trying to make sure that this interfaces support actual true. Oh, dog. I'll be right back 1 second. Okay, I should be back. My apologies. You like the music? I found that's all royalty free. I can't remember where I found it right this second, but yeah. Okay, so concurrent queue works. However, if I'm going to dequeue, then I'm going to have a challenge with how do I commit, right? Because I do need to say, yes, I've actually sent the message. If I don't send the message, I can't treat this message as handled, and I have to then keep getting the same message back out, right? So we are within Outbox, so we don't have to necessarily represent the I event in everything. What's the right way to implement this? So how would idempotency key work as implementation on the server, I wonder? Let's have a look. Let's see if anyone's implemented. Yeah, let's see if there's the ways of doing this. Idempotency. I need to get my look. Wow, they're what is this? Found some random company's APIs. Banking as a service. Yeah, let's not go looking at let's just try that. Oh, sorry, yes, hold on. One day I'll know how to use yeah, links are generally prevented, right? So if you give me a second, I'll make sure you can post them. So Delphi is already a VIP. There you go. You should have the status now, so you should be able to post a link. Outbox pattern. I mean, so what I was trying to do initially was in guarantee the ordering, right? So one challenge is if we implement the outbox as a kind of query of data, then we have to make sure we're getting it out in the right order. So if you have a date sent or date added column, right, then you need to query those results in the date they were added, because you need to make sure that you send them in the same order you receive them. And obviously this implementation is weak, right? Because it's an in-memory one. So if the system goes down mid-development, mid-process, then it's still lost, right? Whether Kafka's there or not. It just means that while the app's up, I have the chance to get Kafka up. And the outbox itself, the actual outbox, should not should not lose those messages. Right? So, yeah. After it gets confirmation of publishing ACK from the queue, it marks the event as sent, right? So I haven't got acknowledgements in there yet, so that is something that we'd have to, because I don't think by default Kafka does. I think you have to actually. I know it can, or whether it can. There is a setting I can change. I think it's when it acknowledges it. I think an acknowledge by default is when one broker receives it, whereas you can actually say, "Hey, when everyone's confirmed they've got it, then I want the acknowledgement." So it won't actually let go until. Partitioning, event numbering, event consumers. That's allowing for multiple Outbox processes to run rather than one. So for me, for right now, one per application is just plenty. It's not going to hurt. And if I implement the SQL Server version, it'll be even better. Right, but I can get this done and use the memory Outbox for development. Right, that's the purpose, is that it's there. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, it doesn't really make a big difference for what I'm trying to do here. We can explore the concept more. I don't want to derail for too long. I'm trying to look out how people refer to that. I mean, so you should have VIP status now. So if you do want to post, I assume you tried to post a link. You should be able to post again now. I don't see anything telling me it punished you in any way, shape, or form, other than just ruined the link. So let's consider this a little differently. So message Outbox, let's call this post async, right? To get rid of the words, yeah, and retrieve. Next message, next. Again, I'm leaning into that. So we post and then we retrieve the next, right? So I'm getting away from that queue wordage. It is a queue, right? It should be kind of a queue. But another way of doing this would be to do public rollback. Yeah. Public class outbox message t where t event is event public date time added public t event doesn't like yeah, it doesn't like mobile. No, it doesn't matter. Event. Oh. So doing it this way, I'm not having a very good day today. Oh, stop. Doing it that way right? What we do is we have a list of a list of Outbox messages, and then in here, this is really Outbox, I suppose, and then we add new Outbox message, t event, pass the event. What do I like about that? Because I don't implement the interface. Outbox message. Commas, not semicolons. Just not having a good day today. I mean, it doesn't matter because everything's an I event anyway, right? But and that should be public anyway. A new won't fix that because it's not hiding the underlying implementation, right? It's for that I'd have to do Outbox message dot event, right? Is it that one I want? No, I want the explicit implementation. I'm not having a good one. No, it's because T event is I'm overriding this method, but nothing here says I event and T event are related anyway, so it doesn't know how to treat that interface. So if I remove this, right, watch, it'll offer me I event, right, which works. But I mean, I don't need the specificity. I just need I event, right? So I might as well just have that, and that, right? And then don't need the interface, right? No, it's not record. No, for right now, it's just that. That's Outbox message. Then that adds that. Now here, we want var next equals. So okay, challenges. If I implement this, I'm trying to think how I've done. I've definitely solved the Outbox problem before. This is not something that's new to me. But maybe doing it in memory is kind of where I'm getting tripped up. Oh, I thought you would call event whatever it wanted implemented for the Kafka interface. Yeah, I mean, event is just, so I event is my interface, right? My event is just, it's a message that I am dealing with. Abstraction, sorry. I event. And I event just has an event ID and a codon, right? That's all that specifies that. And that is generated by a default event, which you can inherit from. Which means that every event gets. Right, what's the Kafka reference? Kafka reference. Sorry. Oh, that's because it's in my libraries, right? Because I've called my libraries tbddevelop.kafka. It was talking about the interface was hiding the fact that so I event and T event had nothing to do with each other at that point. So I was adding specificity when I didn't need it. So right now this is functional, right? Here's where I'm going right now, right? So to get this message, essentially what I need to do is I need to say outbox, outbox dot what's the right way of doing this? How can I create a collection? Because if you're using a keyword, right, that's a keyword. If I want to use the word, then I use the at, right? It is an event. I don't want to call it something else just to try and avoid. Yeah. So if you want to use a keyword, like if you want to call it an int, you can do that, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's a way of getting around that. And in this instance, it's an event. I don't want to call it anything else. So this is nice and easy, right? I can add new message into the outbox. Here, no, because I can't order. I need the list ordered. Just little things you pick up along the way, those things. Those aren't necessarily advanced or anything. They're just more, little hints and tips that you see. That's why a lot of people make a lot of get a lot of views out of like YouTube Shorts and TikToks and stuff, because you can post little things like that, and it's just whose version you come along first, I suppose. What I'm trying to do is create a data structure that I can query, order it by the oldest, so I get the next message that should come out, and then pop that out, and then when I commit, I'll just, do I want to pop it out? No, because okay, what I've got to decide here is how much over engineering am I willing to do. I am going to run this queue single threaded, right? So, this is from O in Outbox, order by O dot added on, order by sending. Okay, Dota, thank you very much for hanging out. Been good to have you here as always, and have a great day at work. Select O. So the problem is, if I'm running multiple Outbox services, then this is not a good pattern, right? This isn't a good pattern because I've now switched it out for a lists aren't very thread safe, right? And I don't think there's a concurrent collection that is concurrent bag, concurrent stack. So if I do concurrent stack, right? Dot push, right? So concurrent stack is don't want that. No, I do want queue. What I'm doing is I'm trying to think through actually how I want to use this, but also I don't want to overthink it, but in the same, I do want the data structure that works, right? So in queue, now that does take an event, but if this was to retrieve Outbox message, right? What would that do? Outbox message, add that. Why don't you like that? Where's this interface? This interface is in contracts of the main library. But I can move that. I don't have to have that yet. Message outbox. I don't care about message outbox until I get to here, so that's not really going to hurt me. So let's move that around. Contracts. Move that. Refactor, adjust. So if this is an outbox message, right? Let's do. And now we get to the idempotency key, because we need public GUID ID identifier is that. So when we create a new outbox message, we get a GUID. This is an outbox message. This is that. Invert. We don't care about current, actually. Right? So we try and DQ and we get, why not just do message null? Right, so that does DQ it. Okay, there's the challenge. If I DQ it and I don't commit, right, it throws an exception, it does whatever it's going to do. I've DQ'd that message, I've lost it regardless. I need to make sure I can keep this message. That's where I'm going. In SQL, there's no harm, right? In SQL, I'm going to get that message. There's no harm in doing that. But here, I only want to remove it once I've actually processed the message. I want to keep getting that same message on every single call. I'm not going to tackle the whole multi-threaded producer concept, right? Because that's overwork. So that's why this is not a sufficient solution, right? So queue is not going to do what I need it to do because I need reliability, and I need to be able to say, yep, this is the next message up. Yeah. So what we're going to do is create that. Var message equals new outbox message. Then we're going to add message identifier message. So we're going to key it on that. Triad. Worry about what happens if that fails. Now, the risk is if Kafka's offline for a long time, this version would not be a great solution, right? Because it would mean increasing amounts of memory. Still don't think that's the right collection. I'm thinking one step ahead, then I'm as I'm going to implement the next part, I'm thinking several steps ahead and realizing that the collection is not what I want. I didn't think this would be this difficult. It seems like a simple concept. So let me review. What I need to do is say, hey, here's the next message to process, right? When you say commit that event, that message, whatever, because it could be, again, this probably should be this at this time, right? Because then I've got the identifier on it. I've got the I've got everything I need to know about that message from my internals. If that was a SQL record, that would still be retrievable. So the challenge in this is now I don't have a very clean access to the ordering because the ID, the dictionary may be ordered in all manner of random ways. So, next equals from, yeah. And that totally just, dot first dot default. Interesting. Next message. So that works. But now, I suppose, that commits it. Not the cleanest, but it does work in memory. Again, the challenge is if I'm running concurrent processes, they would both process the same message and send the same message, which wouldn't necessarily be a problem if you're dealing with idempotency on the other side, because even if I receive the same message multiple times, I should know that I'm not going to change the state. I should validate that I'm going to do that. And this is message.event, all right? And then I'll commit the message. So this is testable because I've turned Kafka off, right? So again, retrieve the next event, which is probably a bad name. Retrieve next message. A message as an event, let's say. Let's go with that terminology for right this second. It's an outbox. We get the next one based upon the date. We try and publish. If we can't publish, we fail. We go and get it again. So what we should see here is when I hit the exception, I should go back in here, get the next one, try again. If I turn Kafka on, it should publish, commit, and then go clear. So let's try that. So Outbox sample is running. Let's see. So this sort of stuff is not something you have to implement daily, right? This is not something that you often like, oh, I need an Outbox now. This is why we rely upon libraries. This is why it's worthwhile going researching to see how other people do things. But as I've hopefully shown over the last couple of days, there's so many different opinions on how to do so many different parts here that this is challenging, right? So there's my message. That was added in the actual sample program, right? Now it can't publish. It gets the exception. It adds a delay. We log that we're delaying. We wait. That delay. We go back. We get the message. Same message. And keep going, right? So this is, I haven't put a cap on this timeout right now. So eventually I'll put a max back off time because it's just going to, exponentially increase. Right. So let's turn Kafka on. And what should happen is once Kafka's up and running, which we'll have to give it a second. This is telling me it's running, but I don't believe it. Parts of this will go orange in a second, knowing my luck. Oh, it's looking healthy. Okay, so now let's go back here. Oh, it's still accepted. Our timeout's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Our publisher is Kafka Publisher. Yeah. Ah, but that doesn't matter. Because I neglected to post those parts. Oh dear. Okay. I know what I'm doing, honestly. I promise I know what I'm doing. I didn't have the configuration, so nothing was telling it about Kafka, so it was erroring. I was so focused on getting that piece tested, I'd not even assumed that it would work. Okay, so let's go back over here. Let's go to our Outbox publisher, Outbox service. Let's put that max private const int max back off interval. If it's less than so the maximum we'll give it is 10 seconds between tries. We can make that configurable later, but again, so this is part of the shared library, right? This is going to get published. You have full access to this. If you want to change it, you want to demonstrate a better implementation, you want to try and write a SQL Server version, feel free, right? I'd be interested to see if anybody wants to tackle that. It's okay. So let's run that up again. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to stop Kafka. So I genuinely get an error, right? So this should fail, yeah. Again, anyone joining the stream, you're more than welcome to ask any questions, pass any thoughts or opinions. This is not a watch me get stuff done. If you actually want to interact, feel free. If you're just hanging out, I appreciate the viewers. That is very much appreciated. Okay, so now let's bring Kafka back up. Let's see if it fails again. I'd expect that one to fail. So I think we've proven that we're still getting the same message. So now let's run. Let's make sure I don't. Oh, we're still hitting that. Why are we hitting that? Value cannot be null. Kafka configuration. We're going to install plugins. Value cannot be null. Not sure what I'm missing there. We've got our producer. That's our producer sample. Push into the topic. Try it again. Let's see what happens. It looks like Kafka configuration is broken. Yeah. Try get topic. Oh. No, it should be. Kafka publisher line 23. Kafka publisher line 23. Try get topic from event. So there's a reference. Yeah, for events. So events, that sample event, is what we're publishing. Outbox sample. Unless this isn't copying. Let's delete that and make sure. Add configuration files, app settings. Add. Properties. I wonder if that copied in as an example and not. Yeah, probably. So that copied in as a link to the other file, so I don't think it actually got there. So to test it, make sure I test this, I need to go shut down Kafka once more. So we run, we get our exception. That looks healthier. That's a different kind of error. Ads are about to run in a couple of minutes. I do let the ads run on a decent time just to make sure that it helps people get into the stream. Obviously. I appreciate you watching, and if you actually want to know what I'm doing and you don't want to wait for an ad, just let me know and I will pause. So we run that once more. Now let's try and turn Kafka back on. Also, as I am working on this project, I recently did a video on configuring these sample applications, the consumer sample and the outbox sample. Oh, the producer sample, sorry, not the outbox sample. Oh, why are we erroring now? Invalid configuration argument. I mean, this is exactly why you want an outbox. I'm consistently getting the right thing, but let's try it without. So with Kafka started, right? Sometimes broker doesn't come up. Let's see if it still errors. Because my configuration is correct, because obviously it's working for the producer sample. And I'm using Kafka Publisher still. So. Okay. No, you don't want to work, do you? Local invalid argument or configuration. Local invalid argument or configuration. Publish async. Line 35. No, not what I want to do. Publish async line 35. So it's just trying to produce the event. So let's put a breakpoint there. I'll see where that goes. Okay, our topic is null. Huh? How can our topic be null? Isn't that exactly what that's meant to prevent against? Try get topic from event. So the purpose of this is that it should build a lookup of all the topics that have been passed in, right, into configuration. From there, it should allow you to look up, get the name of the topic from the type, right? Try to get topic from event type. So our topic, our T event is one of, oh, that ain't good. That is 100% not good. The problem is not one of configuration. The problem is one of loss of type. Do you remember when I said I didn't need anything here? I kind of did. I event, I outbox message. This needs a grid. Morning, Deflux. How you doing? Been looking. Love my face. Thank you. Public, no. Date, time added on. And public object event is how we're going to do that, right? This is going to override iOutbox event, and this is going to take T event again. Where T event is I event. So the problem is, what I'm doing is, when I'm saving the Outbox message, I'm passing in I event. At that point, I lose all context of the type that I actually passed in. So now I have, right, this. What it should be offering to do for me is to cast, to implicitly implement the interface, so that I can say, when you say event on an iOutbox message, you really get this version of it. It's not doing that. There you go. That's the implicit implementation of the interface, right? So if I'm talking about the message as iOutbox message, it will use this method, right? But because it's internally built to this instance of Outbox message, it will return whatever I've set in there. So it will return an object which will be of type T event, right? That is my problem. So now if I go back to here, this is going to break, because this now should be iOutbox message, right? Because that's the generalized version of it. This needs now specificity, yes, right? And here, I need an iOutbox message, right? And this needs an iOutbox message, right? So I don't want specifics, I want generalities. So this should be iOutbox message, and everything else should work. So now I should add an event into the queue, or into the stack, of Outbox message. It should retain its T event type. When I pull it back out, it doesn't lose it. It is always Outbox message of T event. So that when I retrieve that event, it should still be of type T event, right? What do you not like about that? Publish async. Okay, so the type object must be convertible. So now I have another challenge, in that I have, because that's not healthy. That can't be done, because that's going to end up with the same problem, right? Right, watch, that'll end up with the same problem. I'm 95% certain. When adding the Outbox message to the concurrent dictionary, do you check whether the same message exists before? I do not right now. That's next challenge, right? we got to make sure we aren't adding the same thing. So I do have an event identifier on the event. How could the same message be published twice to the Outbox? I mean, it wouldn't be harmful. Let's see if this works. Message. I think this is going to suffer the same problem. Yeah, topics no, because it can't treat it as that. So how do I get? So to add the same to verify them not adding the same message to Outbox, I could verify I'm not adding the exact same event, right? Because I have an event identifier. So I could avoid the client doing that. In my cases so far, not so much of a worry because I would have no way of knowing, so I'd have to compare the entire event contents, which would not be the responsibility of Outbox. And again, on the other side, you should be handling the fact that you could receive duplicate data. Like you should make sure that you have what you need. So the duplication shouldn't be a problem. Outbox service. I'm going to do this. So the problem here is we now have iEvent, which is an object. Our Outbox message I don't know where this is going to go. So, how do I do this? There is a way I can do this, but it's a little bit more long-winded, a little bit more work, but we'll see. So watch this. So I kind of explain what I'm going to do. iEvent. So Essa, why have you experienced scenarios where you do have to verify that the same message hasn't been actually pushed to the Outbox? Like, what would you say is the risk there? Where would the risk be? Sorry, I'm trying to adjust my standing map. Another thread may change the content of your message before it is processed. Another thread. From the sending component? I'm trying to work through the scenario there to make sure that I'm not discounting something that I've not ever experienced. So if I'm using concurrent dictionary to ensure full idempotency, I'm using concurrent dictionary to make sure that different messages could get sent. I could potentially send. Yeah, I could potentially send two events for the same ticket at the same, almost exact same time, which would right now queue two events. Yeah, I suppose I could. But I would have no idea without field level comparison that they were duplicates. Because they wouldn't have the same key, because the identifier, well, no, because the Yeah, I'll have to start. That's made me realize I'm not doing the identifier right. If I use the identifier of the object in the topic, then yes, I could guarantee that I wouldn't have a second inserted. Right now I'm using kind of a generated identifier for each message as a packet. That is a default event type, and it has an identifier on it, and that's a GUID, it's generated GUID. If I say that every object that gets sent has to have an identifier that's unique to it, then yeah. I mean, again, it shouldn't hurt, but it could lose changes if two people go into the same ticket and update it. So I had a note and you had a note to the same ticket. Those events publish. It could say, "Oh well, I've already seen this change, therefore no." Right? So you could potentially lose data on the other side because you're checking to see if you've actually seen an update for this object. So you'd have to be more aware of the fact that that's true on the other side. But I would want, in the case where you and I both update the ticket, I would want both events to go. But these are the problems, right? I'm developing a system in a way that I'm more waterfall than I need to be right now. I'm trying to be more agile and start to implement those practices, but I am actually having to adapt to some of these things. And some of these, like this, it's a challenge that would come across any team that is trying to implement this sort of stuff. Probable is idempotent string key return data contains key. Right, but you still need something that uniquely identifies that specific thing. I cannot send right now, because of the way the data is configured. Even if I sent two messages for the same object, I would not know that they were identical messages. Right, so I could send two events of the same type, but I would not know they were the same for the same object at this point in the data structures. So the idempotency is kind of right, but then I've got to also then put in heavy checks to the outbox to say, hey, do you have this message already? Based upon these parameters, right? So query, query that, and yeah. Monkey JTV, welcome. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. If you have any questions, any thoughts or opinions, more than welcome to share. Hi. How's it going? Okay, let me. So, Essa, I think, no worries, no worries. I think it's definitely valid. I think I'd like to go into that a little bit more. I think that's definitely worth exploring as we move forward with the project, especially with the Outbox stuff. What is the how do we handle those things? Because that's definitely something that's now make me think maybe I do need to concern myself. My day's going fine. How's yours? Okay, so we have our event, right? So here's the challenge. Our message has this. The event is of type sample event, but as far as this is concerned, this is not publishing an event, it's publishing an object, right? Because it will just take the interface of iMessage. So even though I can see it, this is an Outbox message, and event is an object as far as this is concerned. Putting in the code. That's It's always the fun. Writing the code is good, but making sure the code is clean is better. So the way I'm going to get around this, possibly not the best way, but it is the way I know, right? Or I'm going to try and recall on the fly. So what I'm going to do, private void, publish event. This is going to publish message. Let's call it Outbox message. So, and adding comments so I know what I did. I forget so fast. So, I genuinely don't believe that comments are going to help all the way. As you're learning, absolutely. As you're growing and you're trying to figure out what things are doing, etc. But one thing you won't see a lot of in my code will be comments, because what I'm trying to do is make sure that I'm calling things as I expect them to be, right? So the comment is the actual method. It is the code itself, right? So trying to write code that reads almost like English, right? In my case. Yeah. But it is a good way to backfill when you especially when you're thinking and you don't understand everything you're looking at. Absolutely, yeah. Make sure you add comments. Make sure you add notes for yourself. Just be careful you remove comments that are not necessary. So if you say, you know, logs the exception and does something else, right? If that stops doing the something else, remove the comment, right? And this is a useless comment, right? Because you can kind of see it logs the exception, right? So be careful that you're adding comments that have value to what you're doing. I'm doing web dev also, so I need the comments. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As you're thinking through it, right? And oftentimes I use the measure of when I read the code again, does it still make sense? If it does, then I did a good job. If it doesn't or it doesn't fit, then what do I need to change to make sure it does? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do private void publish message t event, right? Oh, publish event. This is going to be t event where t event is that. Yeah, if you're continually reviewing your code, you're writing good code, then you should be improving. That's the goal, right? You don't want to be publish message. It's going to be that. Let's make sure I can cancel all the way now. So we're going to publish message at this point, and I'm going to pass in the stopping token. So what I'm going to do here is it might read the same, but ultimately it's going to do a little bit more. So from this, I need to get the type. That's impressive that you want to do that, Copilot, but that's totally not what I want to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use reflection to get the type of the message, the event, because I do know it, right? And then I'm going to invoke a generic call, make a method call to this one, passing in the right type. So then in here, all this will do, and I don't think I've done what I'm about to try before, so this is going to be interesting. Cancellation token. Yes, this is Kafka. Oh, well, this is kind of on the edges of Kafka. This is my stuff right this second. What I'm doing is I'm writing an outbox to allow me to split the actual publishing the Kafka messages outside of the application, so that if the application, if Kafka isn't available, if Kafka isn't available while I'm actually working in the application, then these messages can still get sent. They don't get lost. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to call this publish message because this is actually from the other side. This is actually, here's the message, you go publish it. And this will work out how to do that. And then this will publish an event, right? So first we need to go and get the actual var type equals message.event.get type. That should return, in this instance, it should return sample event, right? That's the type it should give. Then we need method. Yep, that looks fine. That's exactly what I want. So what I'm saying here is go and get me a method with the name of publish event that is non-public and instance. Now, I only have one of those in here, right? If I'd have called this publish event and this publish event, I would have had to differentiate here that I wanted the generic version, which is this version, over the other version. So in this case, I don't need to worry about it. If method is null, throw new exception, unable to publish message, which would then back that off, which would then keep trying, which would back that off. This would just end. This loop would never end, by the way. So we're going to do that, right? So what this is doing is taking that type and making this generic method. So it really says, hey, I'm going to pass in a sample event, right? So that's what that does. And now this is the challenge because I've never done this before. Yeah. It's just going to go through. So I'm saying, yes, I know I can invoke this because I know the generic method exists. And yes, I know it's going to be a task. Yeah, there you go. So we can remove that. We can remove the redundant. There you go. So we're just saying with this exclamation that we are going to, we guarantee this is going to work. So if it fails, it fails. This is really interesting. Good. God. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. My stream is not about me making necessary progress. It's about people being able to talk about stuff. Before you just joined, Esther and I were discussing the need for idempotency on the input to this so that we make sure we don't publish the same message twice, which now I'm thinking about. I really I want to go through those use cases. So I will say, Esther, you have thrown so much stuff at me in a short period of time. I've got videos queued up on all sorts of tabs across my screens. I've got articles queued up. There's a lot to take in, and I do appreciate the chance to grow as well. I'm having a lot of fun recently. Stream is definitely something I'm enjoying. Welcome back, Deflux. How's it going? Okay, so this may or may not work. I believe it should. I don't think this will happen, but let's find out. So again, this is going to get the type of the actual event. Need them vertical tabs, that way you can queue more up. We're going to get the method that we're going to use. We're going to validate that we actually got the method. It's a non-public instance method. It's not a static method. It's an instance of this Outbox service, and it's not public, right? It's private. We're going to then build a generic version of it using the type, so that we're telling it, hey, we're going to publish sample event, and then we invoke that method and we pass all the data down we need. So we should get here without any challenge. Did I leave Kafka up or did I take Kafka? Kafka's up. So now we should be able to go into here. We should get a type, yeah. We have a method. Yes, we have a method. We've made a generic version of that method. We should get into here. There we go. That didn't run as I intended it, but that worked. So it did pass in now that T event, and just to prove it, type of T event. If you remember before, we did type of T event and it gave me I event. We can see here this is type of events.sample event. So we go there now and we should be done. So a little bit more complexity than ideal, but it does mean that now we don't have to know about the type of events we're storing inside of our Outbox. We can publish them still, we can pull them out still, they'll get the right type and they'll get processed. And just to prove that, if I go here and go to consumer sample and go to this one, here we have the sample event receiver. So if I go here, I should receive an event, right? Actually, I'll prove another way. We have Kafka open. Here's our sample events. He says with tenant information there. That's not my sample group, data browser, sample events, no data found. There we go. So these are the events from today. There's there's 1219. There's our published event, right? So if we run the consumer sample, we should hit here. That should consume that message, and there we go. Hello world. Hello world 42. And again, just to validate, this is actually doing 101. Right? Let's run our Outbox. Crusader. So we run our Outbox. We should have an event in here, right? Fetch. There's our 101. And now we should be able to stop that. Run our consumer. This is a Crusader army to prevent an attack against the Egyptians, but it's unsuccessful because of the weather and strength of the defenders. Happened at 1219. Okay. History buff. So we should see on the screen hello, world, and 101 as the value, right? If this is working correctly. There we go. So we are producing through the Outbox. We are consuming through our consumer. Making sure I don't have two puppies eating their way through my house. Yep. So there's the Outbox. There's our samples. Okay. Whew. What did I do in this? I did all sorts of stuff in this. Outbox, do a post, and retrieve. Not queue. It is cute in QQ, but I mean it's an internal implementation, so I'm not going to panic too much about that. The Outbox publisher is our replacement for the contract, so you can swap out Outbox and regular without having to even change anything. You can just say I want to use the regular one. So that gives us some benefit there. So that's not really a big thing. In Outbox service will send the right message to Kafka determining message type is in the event packet, and yeah, I mean, no point being wordy for the sake of being wordy, right? So again, this is so the main code, the Liquid Sky platform, that is not going to be open source, right? But this is yet another piece of that I will share. I'll use the same stuff, right? So I'm not saying here's a version that is for everyone else. Here's my version. I've actually not even implemented this yet, so I'm doing more in this than I am in the main one. So let's update the documents. Outbox. There we go. It's a. Yep, we'll go with that. Copilot is just doing my work for me. But it's a way to ensure that messages are not lost if the consumer is down or if the consumer. That's not true, right? In Kafka, it's a way to make sure that messages are not lost if the producers are unavailable, i.e., the brokers are unavailable, right? So it's not that the consumer is unavailable to process it, because Kafka will queue all that stuff up, right? That's why Kafka exists. Consumer is nothing to do with Outbox. If we get to the inbox side of things, then maybe, yes. That might be something we have to look at. But right now, my implementation of how I'm handling those messages with the event receivers means that I'm creating one service per receiver. So every receiver gets its own thread, which means that I'm not processing these in series. I'm processing them in parallel, and therefore I don't have much of the need for the inbox right this second. Inbox there would help me in so much as getting these queues cleared quicker, right? But that's just kind of creating a temporary store locally, which is what Kafka is kind of doing. So I'm not going to worry too much about inbox for the time being. That'll be a as needed. And again, anyone who wants to implement that is more than welcome to create PR against this repository. Right? So to configure using Outbox instead of using the default publisher, you need to add following configuration. Margaret, thank you very much for joining. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. No worries. Take care. Thank you. Okay, so in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to go back over to the code. Outbox sample. We're going to go here. And this code is going to look like this. It's in the README, so yeah. So right now, the only Outbox implementation is in memory. This will be expanded. Nope, not by default. We still use the default publisher, but this is handled by the Outbox now. If you try and use the default publisher, and the outbox, you will get an exception. Exception at runtime. So just to prove that, I probably should validate that, right? So again, obviously I have this, and I had default publisher now, right? So that'll allow me to do that. But I've already got with default publisher, so what should happen is this one should throw an exception. If it doesn't, I'll be very embarrassed. There you go. Cannot register default publisher when a publisher is already registered. There you go. And that exception is on the other side as well. So it will prevent you from, in the outbox, when we do the builder. No, the builder. Here. We guard against already registered as the outbox. Right? So if you go into the program and try and do that, it's legitimate code, but it should throw an exception of you can't add an outbox. You cannot add an outbox when a publisher is already registered. Right? So it does prevent you from doing both. Okay. Updated README to represent outbox. So the next piece there, and again, I don't want to lose track of this, which is the problem. So, all these tabs are just research tabs that I've opened for the most part. So Essa, I have got this video queued up, and I do want to watch it. And I had it on my phone last night, and I sat down, and every time I tried to watch it, something happened. So I do want to watch it though, because I think it, and that's kind of why I'm doing this on the stream today. Is because it's not because I don't want to get to the main application development. It's because I think that there is some benefit in just pausing for a second or two, trying to review some other opinions and other thoughts on it while I'm actively considering what it means to publish events in the system. Because if I can find someone that actually aligns my way of thinking on it, then maybe I say, actually, here's how I'm going to plan things going forward, right? As a ghost, do a watch party, do it live. That would be an interesting thing to do at some point. Is kind of do a kind of like a book club, but with a video, and kind of pause it and talk about it, and see if we have the same interpretation of things. That might not be a bad idea. Oh, don't forget, on Friday I will be doing the whole coding challenge thing. I will pick that probably on. I'll decide what we're going to do on Thursday morning stream. So if you haven't yet, go and vote on the coding challenge we'll do on Friday. So again, I have Friday off, so I have a few more hours. So I'll make it a longer stream. And I'm going to do a coding challenge. There's actually a coding challenges channel in the Discord. And whichever one wins the votes, I will pick. And that will be Friday morning's challenge will be to review it live on stream, analyze it, decide how I'm going to attack it, and do as much of it as I can in a stream. And that is for the benefit of Surav on the YouTube channel, who requested that. If it's popular or people enjoy doing that sort of stuff, then we can do it more frequently. But although right now I've put it behind a channel point reward, and if it's successful, I will, I like to share things that I think will be useful. As we share, our knowledge will increase, and we learn a lot here too. Thank you so much. No, thank you. I appreciate the interactivity. I appreciate the knowledge sharing. You know, we all have our different experiences and our different pieces, right? And just because I'm streaming it doesn't mean I know any more than anybody else. It just means that I'm willing to stand here and say, hey, look at this, and oh, I'm wrong, right? But I really do appreciate the input of everybody. With stuff like this, some of this stuff I wouldn't find naturally. I wouldn't go hunting for. So my biggest challenge with watching these sorts of videos is I have a very small attention span these days and very little time to watch things in. So if I sit down on the sofa and watch that, I'll be asleep because my days are just jam-packed with everything else. So, but I will, but I do want to watch these sorts of things I do, and having other people say, hey, here's a good thing, here's a good example, then it kind of filters down the amount of time I'm going to spend looking through things that aren't good examples. And also, if we're looking at the same stuff, then we also have the same, it's like I just said, right? It would be interesting to have kind of a video review where we can watch a video and talk about the video. Kind of like a book club without the reading. So that's where I'm going. GitHub. I wonder what kind of method you will follow when processing the message in the inbox. Imagine that you have more than one instance of the same service running on different machines and accessing your inbox table. So I think that definitely depends on how I come to processing messages, right? So the way that locally I develop, right, and I've kind of said this before, is right now I only have 2 events, right? So right now it's not even visible what I would do. And the challenge we're hitting here, and I'm almost certain of the fact we're hitting here, is this and this happen at the same time. And I think they collide, and I think it stops one from processing. Right? So today's stream might not be very good in terms of that, but an inbox wouldn't fix that either, right? Because these are processed as separate processes. So the inbox would help if I want to kind of control the influx of messaging to my system, but it won't solve this problem. And the idea of this is, the reason I'm creating it this way is because when you actually put this on Kubernetes, right, local development is nice and easy if you have all the ability to have all these as one service, right? Because you don't want to have to create a service for the tenant created, a service for the tenant user, etc. When you put it on Kubernetes, you can deploy instances of the same core service, but tell it which actual receivers it's going to handle, receive, whatever. So right now, I'm not sure an inbox works with that design. Because essentially Kafka is handling the inbox functionality right now, because it's saying, hey, you get this, you get this, you get this, you get this, you get this. And the more consumers you put in place, the more it can handle off at any one time, right? So yeah, I've got to do a bit of a review on what inbox means to Kafka and how my design so far differs, and if I feel that is better or worse. But it is something I do now want to review because I can see it. Obviously, Kafka Flow has. Did I see Kafka Flow as an inbox? Or am I making things up? Kafka Flow. Guys, did I see it as an inbox? Maybe I'm dreaming. Maybe I'm dreaming. I thought this had an inbox of some form, but yeah, it is something that I probably want to review. Batching, consumer throttling. See, I don't like this style. It's just, but again, in a world where infrastructure as code, etc. exists, then this makes more sense, because this is infrastructure, right? This is, hey, I need to do these things, set this thing up. It's all the same thing. Yeah, with workers. See, this has the ability to scale out individual workers, I would imagine, so that you can have a single consumer. So it's using the same concepts. I don't know. We will connect to a single partition with a group name and allow a single consumer to process messages. Yeah, the challenge with Kafka is you really have to plan out what you're going to do. Like I plan on, how to put it? I plan on continually reviewing this stuff, right? Because again, as much as I would like to say, hey, I've got all the prototyping out of the way, the reality is I haven't come out with all the use cases I have yet. So the use cases are going to dictate the things, and being able to adapt the technology is going to give me a better chance of making a more successful piece of software. If I stick to what I have and try and make new requirements fit in with what I have, I'm going to end up with code that doesn't quite work the same way, or it doesn't work correctly. So, but we will see. We will see. So let's do compare and pull request. I did not make a, can't automatically merge. I can still create the pull request. Let's create the pull request and have a look at why. Resolve conflicts. Did I update the README on the remote before I did it? Okay. Marker resolve, commit merge. Okay. Files changed. There's a lot of files in this. Outbox sample. The README. We've got our Outbox sample. We've got the configuration. The project. The program. The handlers. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I sort something up before I finish today. Post, retrieve, the default publisher. We've got our extensions, we've got our guards, we've got our outbox, we've got our publisher, our service. We did not put in a maximum there, so that will infinitely run. Can't do that to your own pull request, so that's not really useful. Merge pull request, confirm merge. And then we're going to do one other thing before we call that done. Delete the branch. Update. Code. Let's make sure we get rid of that branch locally. There we go. And then we need to do workflows, release. So I'm going to commit fully to doing this. No. No, I didn't do it. I didn't set it up. I didn't set it up. You get generate. Doesn't matter what this is. Title, Kafka. One thing I've got to be careful of is that I do not. You can run foul of calling things Kafka, right? I don't want to make this look or even remotely seem like it is a Kafka supported project. This is not. So this is going to be. I know that's like Process Explorer or whatever it's called, Offset Explorer had to rename because it was called Kafka Tool. Hi Kafka. Oops, I did it. Implement. Implement. Outbox. So the way this will go, by the way, is if say you wanted a SQL Server implementation of this, you create a Outbox to SQL Server project and extend that, create the extension. So right now we have using memory Outbox. You create an Outbox implementation like this. You create an iMessage Outbox for SQL Server. You'd add an extension method for use SQL Server memory Outbox, right? You'd obviously have to get a configuration sorted out for that as well. And that's how you do it, right? If you wanted to create a Postgre or any other implementation, you would do a PR with the relevant version. And that's how you would well, I don't think that actually matters. I think it's just more the configuration that would go with it that is going to be broken if I don't do it that way. So let's do patch Outbox, Kafka.outbox. Everything else is the same. That will push all NuGet packages. We should be able to commit the changes. Added Outbox package. That's bad. I should protect this branch and make a development branch. So source. No, that's not right. I have not pushed that over. Push. There you go. That'll help you. Code. Okay, so we've got our README. Yeah. Got README. We've got everything else. So let's create a release. Draft a new release. Choose a tag. 0.0.3. Outbox. This release introduces an memory outbox. Again, this is not useful for anything beyond development, right? Which is not. So if you wanted to use this library right now, you would have to create a SQL server if you wanted to use Outbox or Redis or something else that's more persistent, because this would be very flaky. And the only reason I made it concurrent dictionary is to make sure that if other things were trying to publish at the same time, they will get in there. It does not guarantee, as Esther and I have talked for a while over, it does not guarantee that the same object being updated would not produce two events. Although I'm not sure that's not actually a useful use case. That could be challenging though, which is not useful for anything beyond development. That demonstrates. That's latest release. Okay, so let's see if this one goes through. Again, you can find the code for this all up on the GitHub. I gotta get used to that. So all that's there, and obviously these packages are now published so they can actually be consumed. TPD develop. So right now, Kafka abstractions, Kafka services, and Kafka extensions are on 002. Let's see how long it takes for them to actually get there. So they pushed all threes. That'll take a few minutes to process through. No, I'm not doing that on stream. So yeah, they would. They'll be there now. Everything's publishing, everything's passing. Unit tests, we'll have to talk about what useful unit tests we would have in this, because this wasn't developed in a great way in terms of unit testing. But then again, most of it interacts with Kafka, so I'm testing an external system there. Not now I could write a unit test, and I probably should, around that in-memory message outbox. Going good, Apex. It's about to end. So if you are going live, we will come over to see you, because that's where I will head anyway. So yeah, the outbox is there. So now, oh wow, nice. Well, that's hi Chris Jones, how you doing? Two interviews trumped streaming for certain. I wish you the best with them. I will catch up next time you're streaming and see how they went. So, how you doing, Chris Jones? So this stream hasn't been fully as productive as I would have liked. Basically, what I've done today is I have achieved getting an Outbox implemented in the Kafka extensions library. A basic example, we created a sample program to demonstrate it. And we now have the ability to queue messages without actually using them simply. I probably will, in very short form, implement some form of storage version of the Outbox, because if I am going to use this, which right now I am not, I'm using an older version of this set of code, right? If I'm going to use this, then I'm going to need to do that sort of stuff. So I did not get to where I wanted to get to today, which was to look at this problem, right? So logging. Logging is the only way I'm going to know this is happening, and the only way I'm going to prove it, because if it is exactly what I think it is, then I will prevent the problem from happening by putting breakpoints in. So if I have, if I am genuinely hitting the problem of both of these are being executed at the same time, colliding and causing some sort of error, then any breakpoint I do is gonna hide it. So yeah, I don't think I'm gonna get that. So logging is going to be the next part of this. I do actually have time available this evening, so I probably will do all the logging stuff off stream rather than boring people with the on stream stuff. But that is okay. Yeah, I'll. Is there a way to add decorators? Decorators being add more information or kind of just wrap it around it? There's a few ways. There's a few ways I can handle logging here. Yeah. So there's a few ways I can handle logging. I don't believe I am either, to be quite frank. I don't like adding log statements in, right? If I have to go in here and I'm debugging this by doing logger.log info, I'm here now, then I've failed, right? What I might want to do is add some level of logging at from a metric standpoint, it would help as well, right? Because this part I control, this receiver stuff, I control this. So the add event receiver, all this code path, I'm actually controlling. So I could inject loggers at the higher levels and say, hey, I've sent a message, I've dispatched a message, etc. My concern with these is that these are accepting out and causing exceptions. I can probably put, again, logging at the actual program level and say, hey, watch for these things. What I don't want to get into, so a standard way is to do this. You do ilogger of tenant created handler logger. Now that's a Microsoft standard interface, and other implementations add it. So Serilog is the one I'll be using. And then Serilog has syncs, so you can say, hey, I don't want to write to the text file, I want to push it to a remote server. Could add some logging middleware maybe. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of tempted to look at. And I'm trying not to go, now I know that Kafka, now I've looked at Kafka Kafka Flow, I don't want to go and look at that code. So if I'm going to do this, because they do have logging in there, I saw that they do have a logging middleware in there. I'm not trying to recreate what someone else has actually put all the hard work into. I'm doing the things I need to do. That being said, at a certain point, I will assess whether Kafka Flow actually gives me more out of the box than I can do. That's another problem. But anyway, so yeah, we got an Outbox in there today. We got an in-memory version of it anyway. We got the basic interfaces. We got the injection logging. I will do. We'll look at that, because again, in the greater scheme of logging, I do want to look at open telemetry. I do want to look at, hey, what metrics do I want in the system? How do I apply the metrics? How much planning do I need before I should apply metrics? Because there's some pieces there. I've never used open telemetry. I've never used a decent framework for, because OpenTelemetry includes not just logging but metrics and analytics, right? So you can actually put, hey, I'm processing 50,000 messages a second through this, or I'm hitting errors here. You need to know about this. So yeah, so maybe we're getting to that pattern. Maybe we're getting to some actual applying some levels in here that is, hey, I need to log messages and things like that. Now, Kafka does have, and I really do have to be careful. I'm running myself out of more time here. So Kafka does have the concept you can actually attach loggers, right? So I've set log handler, set error handler, right? What to do when it does error. So maybe this is not the right way to do this. Maybe I need to do do some of this or refactor some of this to be actually a bit more adaptable, so that the logging is not actually front and center and it's kind of a layer, as Chris Jones said, kind of middleware level. While potentially boring, I think there is benefit to having this on stream or in a YouTube video. Yeah, you know, the hardest thing to stream is, and I kind of, Mr. Ranhorn joined the stream. I would join his stream the other day, and he said, "Oh, I'm not going to do the research because that's just boring on stream." And I'm like, how many years of watching me research and look up things and struggle through things has he done? I'm like, hold on, I do that all the time. You tell why do you follow me? Why do you support me? It's like, because you do the things I don't do. You work in the technologies that I don't work in. So I found that kind of amusing. But, you know, logging and analytics and metrics and stuff, yeah, I can see a benefit in doing it. I think I do need to do some preparation, though. I don't think I can go straight into it from a stream of Google what is OpenTelemetry. I think I do need to do some prep, because I think that will benefit everyone if I have at least a starting on it. Otherwise, with that experience, I can tell you that the numbers of viewers will definitely fall. I'm just saying that I'm your research tool, apparently. I was talking about doing research on stream, and because I want to look at logging and OpenTelemetry stuff. So I'm the research branch of so, but that's cool. So yeah, Outbox implementation simple, done. Packages published. That's progress, right? So we do have a basic Outbox in there for the Kafka now. You know, if anyone's watching and is interested in looking at this stuff, you know, feel free, check it out. Even if it feels a little bit more difficult than it should be, I would appreciate the feedback, right? And you can always join the Discord. You can always talk through it with me. You know, I'm more than happy to talk about this stuff 24/7, pretty much. I love what I do. So, yeah. But unfortunately, that is me for now. I do have to get to work. I have a meeting in about 20 minutes, and I have 2 dogs to look after. So, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. If anyone's got any suggestions for raids, I would appreciate sending you over to someone. Apex, good luck with those technical interviews. I'm sure you don't need to look, but go crush them. Oh, Canny's streaming. I think we're going to go to Canny. So Canny's a game developer. Can we go raid Canny? Is that okay, Deflux? I know, I only have 2 hours. It's all I can achieve. Friday, sorry. We will be doing the coding challenge. I will be streaming for a minimum of 3 hours, right? If you haven't voted, go into the channel, go into Discord, vote on the thing, and let's see what we end up doing on Friday. But for right now, we are going to go over to Canny. Canny is a game developer who's developing some pretty cool stream games. And is a great place to hang out. Should be their first stream as a Twitch affiliate as well. So thank you for joining me. I will see you again tomorrow, and have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you all.